Warning, the following contains spoilers for Metroid Dread. If you haven't already played Metroid Dread and don't want to be spoiled, then this is your chance to get out of here. Hey guys, Disgruntled Dragon here. Welcome to my first Metroid analysis video, and today we're going to be talking about experiment number Z-57 from Metroid Dread. So what exactly is experiment number Z-57? Well, as its name might suggest, it's a biologically engineered organism. It was grown artificially by the Chozo named Quiet Robe. By the time Samus came to ZDR, Z-57 can be found in Dairon. It's presumably dead at this point, although it's not clear as to how or why this happened. It's possible that due to the creature's nature of being biologically engineered, it may have had complications with its biology, or issues with a short lifespan. It can be found rather early in the game, in the background of a large room in Dairon, with machines operating on it consistently delivering electric shocks to it. Seeing such a large creature in the background like that makes the player think that maybe they'll see it again, and in a different capacity. However, much of the game actually goes by before this creature becomes relevant again. Then Samus discovers a Loon. A Loon is essentially a containment or quarantine facility of some sort built by the Chozo. You could think of it as sort of a Chozo doomsday bunker. It has some pretty heavy security measures in the form of multiple gates and walls, with a sophisticated locking mechanism that requires a bioscan for access, giving the implication that maybe it's meant to keep something out, or something in. Ominously enough, upon trying to enter a Loon, Samus passes this bioscan and is granted entry. As far as I can see, there are two likely reasons that this could have occurred. One, Samus's Chozo DNA may have simply granted her entry, or two, Ravenbeak may have overridden the system remotely. After entering a Loon, it doesn't take long for Samus to discover just why the area has been sealed off. After encountering an X-parasite, it's made abundantly clear that this facility's purpose is to keep the X away from the rest of ZDR by containing them within its confines. And the facility has been serving its purpose quite well, up until this point at least. After acquiring the plasma beam within a Loon, Samus makes her way back to the entrance to find that the gate is open and the X-parasites are spilling out in every direction. After leaving the area, an ominous cutscene plays showing a red X parasite infecting the recently deceased Quiet Robe and making a copy of his body. This newly formed Quiet Robe X immediately reactivates the EMMIs that the true Quiet Robe had previously disabled to save Samus. This chilling cutscene shows that the X can infect the dead. When I saw this cutscene, I immediately remembered the creature that I saw in Dairon. If one makes their way back to Dairon at this point, they will see that the room that housed Z-57 will be eerily empty, with the mechanisms that were operating on it no longer functioning, some of them even being broken or laying on the ground. Almost as though the creature simply got up and walked away. The implied conclusion is that the X came for this creature. It could be anywhere now. However, despite this, it's not seen again for a while. Shortly after obtaining the gravity suit in Berenia, Samus is warned by Adam that the temperature on ZDR is dropping rapidly. Adam eventually determines the cause of this to be the thermal routing mechanism in Cataris being somehow obstructed. Adam concludes that this is the work of an especially powerful X-parasite, and instructs Samus to go there and destroy it. During this segment of the game, Samus must trek through a frozen version of Arteria, encountering many ice-based X enemies along the way. In one of the rooms near the elevator to Cataris, the thermal plant can be clearly seen from below. It's obvious that it's not functioning properly. Upon entering Cataris, Samus must fight her way through a few frozen rooms before finding a morph ball launcher. This leads to the room where the thermal routing mechanism is located. Upon exiting the morph ball launcher, Samus emerges to find a thick, dark-colored muck coating the thermal routing mechanism and seemingly preventing it from functioning. Upon investigating further, Samus turns her attention to the top of the mechanism to see a massive creature emerging from the other side. The creature, upon spotting Samus, begins to climb down from the mechanism and into the room, ripping through the very ceiling. Finally, it anchors itself in place on the ceiling before staring right at Samus and letting out a chilling roar. This is where the boss fight begins. Initially, Z-57 has 3 different attacks that it can use against you. First, it can fire a bright pink beam from its mouth at the floor. The beam will damage you if it touches you, but it will also leave a strange hazardous pink foam on the ground. Touching the foam will cause you to take damage as well. Avoiding damage from this attack requires you to dodge the beam, as well as to stay out of the foam. There's always going to be one small safe zone on the ground. The flash shift is quite helpful for avoiding this attack. Once it's finished with the attack, the foam on the ground will disappear. The next attack is a swipe of its claws that sweeps across part of the room. This attack, while it covers a wide area, has a slow and rather predictable wind-up, It can be easily dodged by space jumping in the center of the room. For the third and final attack, Z-57 will reposition itself on the floor, taking up half of the arena. It will then fire a pink beam from its mouth, slowly sweeping across the other half of the room. To avoid the beam, the player must stay on the floor and close to Z-57's mouth, as that is the only area the beam will not cover. If this is done correctly, however, Z-57 will then lunge forward in an attempt to bite Samus. While it's possible to simply move out of the way, you can execute a melee counter on this attack. Successfully countering the attack will begin a grab sequence. Samus will jump on top of Z-57's head, allowing the player to deal some damage, while Z-57 panics and sprints along the sides of the routing mechanism. Eventually, it'll shake Samus off, and jump back into the arena, screeching and beginning the fight again. After it sustains enough damage, Z-57 will start to change a few things up. The claw swipe attack will have an extra twist to it now. After finishing the second swipe, Z-57 will rear up, raising both of its claws at once, and perform a sort of double sweep. This extra variation to the attack makes it a lot harder to avoid. When Z-57 raises its claws, it covers only the center of the room, but the double sweep covers everywhere else. It's no longer possible to avoid this attack simply by space jumping around the center of the arena. Now the player needs to be more methodical with their jumping. In addition, Z-57 will get 2 new attacks. For the first new attack, Z-57 will unfold its 4 extra legs and attach to the walls. It will attempt to lock on to Samus and fire a burst of energy from its mouth. The player can simply keep moving to prevent it from locking on, or can simply dodge the burst of energy when it fires. The best way to deal with this attack, however, is to fire on the obvious weak points on Z-57's legs. Doing this will destroy its legs entirely, eventually preventing it from using the attack altogether. The storm missiles are by far the easiest way to get this done, as they allow you to lock onto all 4 legs simultaneously and destroy them instantly. For the next attack, Z-57 will position itself on the right side of the room, growl, take a deep breath, and then fire a massive pink energy beam into a set of fans on the wall that would otherwise be obstructed by the thick muck covering much of the room. This will cause the fans to activate and push Samus towards the left side of the room. In order to not get pushed into the wall, the player will need to continuously run or jump. The fans will also cause leftover bursts of energy from the beam to be fired back at the left side of the room. These bursts of energy will be fired out in waves that require the player to jump a very specific way to dodge them. Each wave is different and will leave hazardous pink foam on the wall. Once the attack is over with, Z-57 will be winded for a brief moment and not move. Those are all of its attacks. Now, as for how you kill it, there are 3 ways to do this. The first and easiest way is by simply shooting it repeatedly with missiles, storm missiles, charged beams, or anything else it's vulnerable to. The second is to kill it by dealing enough damage through firing missiles or charge shots during the grab sequence. And finally, it's also vulnerable to the Shine Spark. The Shine Spark method, while tricky and a bit complicated, is a very satisfying way to end the fight. During the fan attack, there's a very specific way that you can get a Shine Spark charged and use it on Z-57. Doing so successfully will reward the player with an instant kill. Once Z-57 is defeated, Samus will shoot it in the face with a charge shot. When it roars back in response, Samus will shoot it right in the mouth, causing it to lose its grip. The creature will make one last ditch attempt to grab back onto the floor, and will also try and grab Samus. Samus, however, forces it to let go with a well-placed charge shot. It then briefly reverts to its Core X form before falling into the lava, concluding the fight. And that about brings us to the conclusion of this video as well. For anyone who watched, I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this boss, what your thoughts are on its lore, its design, and my coverage. I hope that you liked it. If you did, please leave a like, maybe consider subscribing, or letting me know in a comment if you want to see more videos like this. I believe that Metroid is Nintendo's most underrated franchise, and it's one that I'm very passionate about. There are tons of things to explore in this series, but that's all I got for today. I'm Disgruntled Dragon, and I'll see you all later. Thanks for watching.